Hey everyone, I got an exciting show for you today. We're bringing on guest Donna from Hemlane. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Michael, for having me.
I love having these discussions because you and I get to talk about being a landlord, right? All my experts we have that we're talking about this, we're talking about that, but nobody talks about being a landlord like you and I. And again, that's essentially what I am 99% of the day is I'm a landlord. So I appreciate this time with you.
Likewise. And it is one of those things where you purchase a property, right? And then you forget the next 10 years is the time where it's going to make or break the numbers you originally came up with on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. Because I teach my students all the time, you got to calculate yield, right? What's the expected yearly cash flow, out of pocket cash, all of that, all to get up to the point of making an offer, getting accepted, in closing. And in this particular video, the first of three, we're going to just talk about Landlord 101. So let me set that up for you, and then we'll just talk about what somebody should think about. So let's just assume this is their first property. It just closed yesterday, and it's out of state. It doesn't matter,
Okay.
out of state. A city maybe they've never lived in, right? So they don't have a network, they don't know it, but they saw a spreadsheet somewhere, they found something cheap and they bought it. So, but now they're the owner. So what I thought I would do is you and I would kind of brainstorm the top three things we would recommend they do as we get started. So we'll ping pong this back and forth. So you'll do one, I'll do one, we'll go that way. So when you think about that situation, what's the first thing you think about?
The first thing I think about is property management and what you want to do, right? There's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And so, what solution are you going to choose for property management and what is right for you? And with that, then that segues to building a team on the ground. So, that would be first and foremost what I would recommend.
Yeah. My hope is if you made that decision, you've already had some of those conversations, but you and I both know sometimes it doesn't go that way. They went on roof stock and they saw this deal and it's a double digit deal and they make an offer, they get it. I mean, I've seen it happen. Yeah. Oh, I'll buy that one. It's like my brown shoes. I'll go buy that one. And then suddenly they're an owner of a rental property. And oh, by the way, if it's from roof stock, it's probably tenant occupied, right? So it's you're a landlord now. And I guess the first thing I would tell someone is congratulations. But being a landlord for the first time is not as easy as the Excel spreadsheets make it.
Mhm.
I want you to realize that bad things are going to happen. People are going to lie to you. Tenants are going to do this or do that. Stuff's going to break. And I want to say that up front because being a landlord is awesome, but you've got to get through the bumps and humps and the ups and the downs. I don't want the excitement of that first purchase to be lost when the tenant calls you and says, a tree branch just fell on my car. What are you
Yep.
going to do? Right. So I guess that's the first thing I would do. Cause you're right. Property management was what I was going to say. I had to quickly pivot. So I just want to remind people that being a landlord is well worth it. Assuming your mind lets you, because some people just grind on the negative and they just can't let it go. But I do want to let you know that the bad days will happen. You've got to process and get through it. And then, being a landlord long-term will take care of itself. So that's what I got for number one. What do you got for number two?
Know your customer and know your asset.
Ooh, I like
And
that.
what I mean by that is your customer, don't forget the customer is the tenant. Some landlords forget that, but that is your customer.
Mm.
That's who pays you your income. And you need to know who they are. And sometimes, I mean, you can get as much as possible from his history if it was tenant occupied, but you really don't know them until you've worked with them. And so you really need to understand they might look great on paper, but they call in 50 times a day for repair requests, right? And they make other things difficult, right? Neighbor complaints, whatever it may be that may have not have been in a screening. You really need to know your customer. And then when I say know your asset, I mean, hopefully you've had an inspection and a professional inspection done. But there's other things that are going to happen that you're going to learn through time about this asset, the single family home that you've purchased, assuming it's a single family
Mhm.
home, that you are going to want to document, track, and help that to forecast your future success. everything from your appliances to little quirks about the property you may know about. Because don't forget, the tenants are going to come and go. Hopefully, they stay long term. But if they are turning over, you have knowledge that other people don't have. So, as much as you can know your customer and know your asset, that is huge.
Yeah, I love that one. What I'll bring up for number 2 is I want to remind new landlords that tenant turnover is how most landlords lose money. When they go file their taxes, usually you're going to have a bad tax year when there's a tenant turnover, especially in a house, right? Because even a small house, you probably have a couple of thousand in cleaning costs and repairs and all of that. And that will likely eat up cash flow if you're only cash flowing a couple $100. So I want to tell the new landlords that turnover is what causes losses in any one year, most of the time. And I bring that up because a lot of folks when they're new in the business, they're like, oh my God, I can raise rents $25. And sometimes that's the right thing to do if you're that far under market or this or that reason, or it's really, really hot. But sometimes, you could throw out a $25 rent increase in a market. Again, remember the market we set up, you don't live there, you don't know, that maybe has lots of rentals. And by raising the $25, you've basically said, there's the door, time to go,
Yeah.
right? A lot of choice. Yours isn't better or worse than anything else. They'll just leave for a cheaper place. So I just remind people that turnover is the thing. The other thing kind of in that, I'll give you a 2A, 2B, is a lot of people talk about how to get rid of a bad tenant. And at least in the US, and I assume the rest of the world, getting rid of a bad tenant's a legal process that's well documented, right? You do this, you do this, you do this, and eventually they're out. What I would tell a new landlord is, I want you to create a process to keep a good tenant. If you have a tenant
I love it.
that's been there 12 months and paid rent on time, give them a little something, something. Give them something at Christmas, or pick a holiday. Give them something at Easter or 4th of July or Flag Day. I don't care what day it is, but if they do everything right for 12 months, reward them. It could be something little. Maybe figure out one of their kids' birthdays and buy a piñata. I don't care what it is. But instead of being a new landlord and, grinding your property manager for how to get rid of a bad tenant, which, oh, by the way, you could freaking Google, let's talk about how to keep the good ones. I think that is something that most landlords don't think about. So that's what I got for number 2.
Great, love it. Number 3 for me, and it goes along the same lines of tenants and that know your customer,
Mhm.
is have a plan for the future, because this is unlike a stock where you literally put money into a company. You have no control over it unless you're an employee on the board or some executive. You have no way to control performance on that.
Mhm.
One thing is with investments with rental properties, which I love, is you actually do have control. And I speak a lot about control. And so have a plan for what you think for the future that's going to make this investment a success. Come up with those goals and make sure you meet those. If it's okay, in 2 years, I'm going to flip out the carpet and put hardwood floors in, and I'm going to forecast that out.
Mm.
Or landscaping up, increase that, whatever you are going to do. Now, you've probably come up with some of those assumptions before you purchased it. Let's hope so.
Mm.
That you have, but now that you're in the reality of it, you have the tenants, you can start looking for the right professionals for it, your team, and really come up with a plan of when these things are realistically going to happen. And then you can work with your tenants on that.
Yeah. My number 3 and final one for this first landlord 101 is if you are that setup that we talked about, right? You're on roof stock or wherever you are, and you buy one with very little planning or whatnot going on. What I would strongly suggest is you don't do that again, right? Certainly not quickly, right? If you buy one in some city you've never been at, you don't have a team, you haven't done the work, don't compound that by adding a second one quickly. And I've seen people do this. I've seen people go, you know what? I didn't only buy one. I bought 3, right? Because they're cheap. I mean, folks, you can go
Yeah.
broke buying cheap. Trust me. And buying, yeah, it's like the risk goes up, not 1 + 1 + 1. It's like a cube, right? If you buy 3, you're almost guaranteeing one of those is going to go super badly and probably take the profit from the other 2. So
Yep.
if you do buy one, you go buy your brown shoes, to use my earlier example, give yourself 6 months. Make sure you like the market. Make sure you like the property management. And most importantly, make sure you like being a landlord. Being a landlord is awesome, but I promise you it's not for everyone.
Yep. I love that one, because I think you're right. People go and say, I'm going to go big into this market, and without knowing it. So especially if it's not your market and you don't know it and how things are actually going to play out, go into it, make sure you like it, and then go ahead and purchase more after that.
There you go.
6 months, 12 months.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for this. That was Landlord 101. Thank you very much.